compliance and in supervision, I haven't told you what we're doing. So I should. Because otherwise you could rightly claim that I'm making a lot of helpful suggestions, as regulators do, without actually doing anything ourselves. So let me start with our rules. IIROC's predecessor organizations, as SROs, go back over 100 years. And certainly, some people have said that our rules must have been written in that day. While that's not quite true, it is true that the foundation of our regulation, the IIROC rulebook, was pretty badly outdated. Which is why I'm so pleased to say that a couple of months ago we published a completely revised set of the dealer rules, rewritten in plain language, so that both the spirit and the letter of the rules can be better understood by those who must uphold them. In some ways, more important than the fact that we just updated the rules is the fact we've now got a consistent, stable, and up-to-date foundation on which to build. A foundation which incorporates the ability to build in new business models and new registration categories and new technologies, whether they're for advice delivery or supervision. A little bit more on IIROC for a second. Many of you won't be aware of this, but equal in importance to the work we do overseeing investment dealers' operations is our role carrying out frontline market surveillance. We oversee in real time the activity on Canada's 15 equity marketplaces. That is hundreds and hundreds of millions of transactions every day. We do the same thing in the bond markets. To guarantee that we'll be able to continue to do that well, we've had to upgrade our market surveillance system to make sure that we continue to be world leading. This upgrade not only provides us with the capacity to handle the volume that comes with growing markets, it provides us with views across different markets, equity, debt, different dealers, different traders. And when our rules come into force, actually they've just started this last month, which require trades to have the legal entity behind the trade incorporated in the reporting, we can see what's happening across investors as well. These systems allow us to tap into artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're using those capabilities today so that people can focus their attention and judgment on what matters, which is the activities and the anomalies that signal attempts to manipulate markets. The other thing we did was transition our entire IT infrastructure to a digital services platform, to the cloud, if you want to put it that way. It's scalable, it's cost effective, so that we can efficiently analyze not only the vast amount of trading data that we get, which, as I mentioned, is somewhere between half a billion and 1 billion transactions a day, but also all the individual dealer and registrant information, so that we can get some insights, do our job better as a regulator, but just as importantly, get that data back to the firms that we regulate to help them run their businesses better. One example, we have a call center that deals with the complaints and inquiries of Canadians. Operates 24/7 and it's across the country. Well, a couple of years ago, we figured out that we're not the only ones who needed to see the information coming out of that call center for our own investigations and so on. The firms needed to see it as well. So every year, IIROC firms get a report that shows them the kind of complaints and inquiries that we received about their firms, the level of seriousness, if you will, the areas that we're asked about, and where do you stack up versus your competitors and your peer group. That's incredibly valuable information because it tells firms' management where they need to focus their attention. And there's a lot more that we can do with that. I've also said that we need to make it easier for the industry to use technology to satisfy client needs and regulatory obligations. So in the last few months, we've rolled out new guidance on the use of e-signatures, making it easier for everyone. We've also issued guidance on the automation of account opening, and there's a lot more to come. The only one that I'm going to touch on, because the rest is kind of specific to IIROC dealers, is the need to streamline and simplify our approach to outside business activities. Something we've heard loud and clear, and I suspect that is true across the financial advice space. But there's a lot going on, and I hope this demonstrates that we take transforming ourselves as seriously as we do supporting the industry's transformation. We do. because it both ultimately benefit the Canadians we all serve. Let me close the formal remarks before I get to the research slides, spending a moment on what you can do to help this industry work better. In our discussions over the course of the last couple of years with Accenture and then more recently ourselves, we heard that by far the biggest barrier to innovation is the complexity and duplication of the regulatory framework. And as you've heard, we're working hard to improve things in the IROC world and doing the same with partner regulators across the system. But there are some big questions at play. There has been, in particular, a lot of noise in the last few months about the role that self-regulatory organizations play in the Canadian financial system. Most recently, there was a very lively discussion at the annual IFB Conference you may have heard about. There was a thoughtful paper published by the C.D. Howe Institute just in the last number of days, arguing for consolidation of the SROs, and an editorial by Investment Executive. And those examples, which did not all point in the same direction for the result, are just the tip of the conversational iceberg that's been talked about in the industry for years. Now, as our friends at the CSA oversee both IROC and the MFDA, the ultimate decision on structural change in the SROs is theirs. But the CSA's views on how to best serve the public interest will be informed by the perspectives of all stakeholders, including all of you here today. From my point of view, we've got to ensure that if there are changes to the regulatory structure, the changes are warranted, and not ones that have unintended negative consequences on business models like yours that are serving Canadians well. As we've been talking about, there's a lot we can do to make the regulatory system more efficient and more effective. Structural change can, in my mind, should be part of that solution. It's long overdue. But as the man said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So be careful about where we make changes. As independent financial brokers working within the system to better serve your clients, I'd ask you, if you have a point of view on how the system should change to be more effective, say so. The opportunity, in my mind, is coming to examine the role that self-regulation, regulation generally plays, and we'll all get the result we deserve. You won't be disappointed if you engage. Thank you. Okay, so that's the formal remarks. This is the sort of the cheat sheet of the research that we recently pulled together. It's going to be published by the end